Tonight, an update in the Florida rapper Julio Folio in Tampa last year. Davion Murphy, the fifth person arrested in connection to the shooting, will remain in jail until trial.
The most recently arrested suspect in the murder of Jacksonville rapper Foolio has been denied bond and is facing the death penalty.
He puts out his arms like this, and it appears that he's brandishing a rifle with one hand extended and one, what I would consider the trigger finger. And he's holding it like this in front of him, and then he starts going, boom, 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 boom. And then he walks around, and then he does it again. And he does it multiple times.
Breaking news out of Jacksonville, Florida seems to seal the fate of the suspects in the murder of Julio Folio. Apparently, these guys are getting destroyed in court.
Well, Linda, today we learned that the state announced that it is considering the death penalty in this case, but a final decision has not been made yet on which of those defendants, if any, will be facing it.
Now, some of you can remember the recent news about how after being on the run for over 6 months, Davion Murphy, the final suspect in the case, was finally caught.
Fifth person wanted in connection with the Jacksonville rapper Julio Folio is finally in custody.
He was found right here in Jacksonville. Police had been looking for Davion Murphy for more than 6 months.
And just like his co-defendants, Murphy has been hit with the same charges, and the court experience has definitely not been fun.
Were the comments that you were making about the shooter that you suspected in those videos as Davion Murphy intended to elicit some kind of response from Mr. Murphy?
No.
At this point, it's safe to say Foolio's alleged KRs are officially done for.
We're just leaving Murphy's first court appearance where the judge says he's charged with a first-degree, 4 first-degree attempts, among other charges, and was denied bond. This is just the start to a lengthy process.
Not only is the evidence against them overwhelming, but what's really got people talking is how unbelievably reckless and downright stupid these guys have been. Like, their mistakes make it almost comical. Let's start with the fact that one of the key reasons they got caught was because J. Breezy paid the KRs through Cash App. Who in their right mind commits a murder and then leaves a digital paper trail like that?
Yes, so these are the Cash App records of defendant Isaiah Chance's Cash App account, which is titled with the name Mr. Rich Off War. Mr. Rich Off War receives a transfer amount from the account of J. Breezy. J. Breezy is the rapper name of a gentleman whose real name is Jacory Rivers.
And then there's the crew itself. Take Davion Murphy, for example. Before he was finally arrested, people joked that he must have been the best at hide and seek because he managed to evade the cops for so long. Some even thought he had skipped town or was hiding across the country. But no, turns out Davion was still out in Jacksonville, making sure his reputation as a crash dummy stayed intact. While on the run, this guy had the audacity to hop into audio chat rooms, not just arguing, but sending threats like the cops wouldn't catch wind of it.
Hey, Davion Murphy, get off the faces. I told your ass you got one more time.
Oh my God.
Hey, your house empty. Your house echoing. You in a bundle sleeping right now. Just turn yourself in, bro. I'm gonna make you crash. I'm gonna make you go to jail.
I'm outside right now. Tell him I'm on 13th. Outside, standing outside right now.
But what really takes the cake is what happened after he got arrested. Davion managed to outdo himself in stupidity. During an interrogation, he got so upset when a detective called his shooting skills rookie level that he decided to reenact how he offed Foolio on camera.
He puts out his arms like this, and it appears that he's brandishing a rifle with one hand extended and one, what I would consider the trigger finger left, and he's holding it like this in front of him, and then he starts going, boom, 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 boom. And then he walks around, and then he does it again. And he does it multiple times.
But if you think Murphy takes the crown for stupidity, wait till you hear about Sean Gathright, another shooter involved in Foolio's murder. This guy's story somehow manages to be even more baffling. Sean wasn't just tied to the K-ing of Foolio, he was also behind that incident where Foolio got shot in the foot way before his murder.
That shit do not mind the way my toes look. I can't wash my feet. Flip it right now, but look, ain't God good?
In new court documents, investigators say there's evidence linking one accused Charles Jones, also known as Julio Folio, to a previous attempt at last year.
What's even wilder is that Sean's involvement in all of this doesn't even make sense. Unlike most of the others involved in this case, Sean wasn't some gang member with a long list of enemies or someone with a personal vendetta against Foolio. No, Sean was a cameraman. That's right, he used to shoot music videos. He wasn't repping 1200, he wasn't tied to ATK, and nobody can even figure out which crew he was rolling with, if any. So why on earth was this guy hunting Foolio down? Nobody knows. It's like he threw himself into this beef for absolutely no reason. And if you thought that was bad, just wait, it gets worse. What's dumber than getting caught up in drama you got no business being in? Using your mom's car to carry out a hit, that's what. Sean Gathright borrowed his mom's car and drove it all the way to Tampa to off Foolio.
This might be the first time we ever seen this. You went and did a hit in your mama car? You really did that? When it turned the keys in here, mama? Thank you for letting me use the car. She don't even know you did a whole car.
And you'd think if you're gonna use your mom's car to commit a crime, you'd at least cover your tracks a little, right? Maybe throw a fake plate on there or something? No, not Sean. He didn't bother to cover the license plate, didn't use a stolen car, nothing. He just rode up in his mom's ride with the plates clearly visible, basically leaving the cops a giant neon sign pointing right to him. But it gets even crazier. As if driving your mom's car wasn't bad enough, Sean managed to take it a step further. After the job was done, he didn't clean up or get rid of the evidence. No, he left shell casings in the car. And not just any shell casings, these were from the night he shot Foolio in the foot. So when the cops searched the car, it was like a jackpot of evidence. Those casings directly linked him to that earlier shooting, practically gift wrapping his connection to the crime for investigators.
These documents also show that investigators say that one of the gunmen involved in this case was found with shell casings related to an attempt to shoot Jones last October.
And that's still not the dumbest part. When the cops kept digging, they found even more shell casings in his mom's car. Turns out those were tied to another MDR that happened in May 2024. This guy wasn't just sloppy, he was practically begging to get caught.
Gathright was arrested during a traffic stop in Jacksonville where investigators say officers found a Glock 9mm pistol, a rifle. Detectives say those spent casings matched two different shootings before Jones's death, a separate homicide in May and a shooting last October in what investigators say was an attempt to kill Jones then.
But if you think Gathright's actions were dumb, just wait until you hear about his fellow accomplices. They managed to take stupidity to a whole new level. To understand just how sloppy these guys were, this is how things went down. The group responsible for Foolio's MDR consisted of Isaiah Chance, Alicia Andrews, Sean Gathright, Davion Murphy, and Rashad Murphy. Together, they orchestrated one of the most poorly executed crimes in recent memory. Their actions were so sloppy that people online couldn't stop roasting them, with one comment saying, "These gotta be the world's dumbest criminals." And another quipping, "Bro must hate his mom. Why would you use your mom's car to commit MDR?" It was almost like these guys were trying to get caught. The plan started with the crew rolling into Tampa in two cars. A silver Chevy Cruze driven by Isaiah and Alicia, and a black Chevy Impala driven by Sean. And here's where things started falling apart. First, the Impala was registered in Sean's mom's name, which made tracking it a breeze for investigators. Second, Tampa is absolutely loaded with surveillance cameras, and these two cars were caught on video multiple times throughout the night. Clear as day, not just before or after the MDR, but during the actual crime itself. When they arrived in Tampa, their main goal was to track Foolio. Here's the kicker. Foolio had already made it easy for them by announcing his plans on Instagram. He posted where he was going to be that night, tagging Teaser's Gentleman's Club and Truth 18 nightclub. All the crew had to do was follow the breadcrumbs he left on social media. Isaiah and Alicia, riding in the silver Cruze, were tasked with following Foolio's every move. At both clubs, Isaiah was seen using Alicia's phone to keep tabs on Foolio. Investigators later confirmed this with phone records, which also revealed that Isaiah was in constant contact with Sean, who was riding in the Impala with Rashad and Davion. The crew wasn't exactly subtle. Surveillance footage showed the crews doing laps around Foolio's car at both clubs. If the cameras didn't catch them, their behavior would have still made them stand out. It was like they were begging to be noticed. Meanwhile, Sean, Rashad, and Davion were lying in wait, ready to make their move. The real drama unfolded at their final destination, Holmes II's Suites. After Foolio left the clubs, the crew stayed on his tail and led the Impala right to him. When Foolio parked, the Cruze circled his car a few times, clearly scoping the area and giving the signal for the Impala to close in.
Shows how two suspect vehicles continued to follow Jones, just as they did at Teasers, and eventually to the Home 2 suites near USF.
They're approaching the victim's position on foot.
Once in position, Gathright and the Murphys opened fire with a handgun and 2 rifles, Kay and Julio. Julio's car sped off, but the damage was already done.
Show 3 shooters firing several shots at the vehicle Jones was riding in, him.
The shooters thought they had pulled off the perfect crime, but they severely underestimated modern surveillance technology. After the shooting, the crew headed back to their Airbnb, which they had booked from June 22nd to June 24th. The spot wasn't just a place to crash. It ended up being a goldmine of evidence for investigators. Why? Because the front door had a Ring camera that captured their every move. The footage showed Isaiah stepping out for a moment with a champagne flute, Davion carrying a bag, and the entire group walking in and out multiple times. Alicia was even caught on camera wearing the exact same outfit she had on during the EMDA. For investigators, this was like striking gold. It tied the crew to the crime and gave them a clear picture of their post-MDR behavior. But the detectives didn't stop there. They kept digging, and Sean Gathwright's sloppy moves made their job even easier. About 12 hours after the EMDA, Gathwright was spotted at a family member's house. He showed up dressed in all black, matching the outfit he was seen wearing in the surveillance footage from the crime scene. He stayed inside for a couple of hours. But what he did when he came back out was what really caught investigators' attention. Around 6:30 p.m., he was spotted talking on his phone while wiping down his car's exterior and interior door handles with a rag. Clearly, he was trying to clean up and get rid of evidence. But Gathright didn't stop there. He also moved several bags into the garage where a 2004 gold Toyota 4Runner was parked. After shifting the bags, he left in the 4Runner, probably thinking he was covering his tracks. Unfortunately for him, that 4Runner turned out to be a huge mistake. It became the thread that unraveled everything and led the feds straight to their doorstep. A few days later, Gathright was arrested while driving the same 4Runner. Now, here's where things get interesting. There's a growing theory that Gathright might have flipped and snitched on his accomplices. Why? Because after his arrest, things started moving fast. Within a month, law enforcement had tracked down and arrested everyone involved for a case that could have dragged on for years. The speed with which they closed in on the suspects raised eyebrows. Adding more fuel to this theory is what happened just 3 days after Foolio's EMDA. On June 26th, Jacksonville Sheriff's deputies spotted the same gold 4Runner speeding through the streets of Jacksonville. The car had heavily tinted windows, making it impossible to see who was inside. When an unmarked patrol vehicle turned on its lights, signaling the driver to pull over, the 4Runner complied. What seemed like a routine traffic stop turned out to be a pivotal moment in the case.
Let me see your hands. Step on out. Step on out. Look away. Back up to the sound of my voice. Yep. Stop right there.
The driver turned out to be Sean Gathright, just 18 years old and already knee-deep in trouble. When deputies approached the 4Runner, they immediately caught a strong whiff of marijuana wafting out of the car. Sean tried to play it cool, denying that he had anything to do with the smell, but that didn't work. The odor alone gave them probable cause to search the vehicle, so they asked Sean to step out and wait by the back of the car while they got to work. What they found during the search painted a much bigger picture of what Sean was up to. For starters, they uncovered a small bag with marijuana residue and some mushrooms. That might have seemed minor on its own, but it was just the tip of the iceberg, and things got more serious when they dug into the center console and found a Glock 19, a semi-automatic pistol. Finding a gun in a situation like this is a major red flag, but it didn't stop there. In the backseat, they discovered multiple bags of ammunition and firearm parts. This wasn't some casual stash. It looked like Sean was ready for battle. Between the drugs, the gun, and the ammo, it was clear Sean was involved in something much bigger than just cruising around town. Sean was immediately arrested and taken to the Crime Gun Intelligence Center for questioning. At this point, detectives were hoping they'd finally get some answers about Foolio's EMDA. But Sean wasn't making it easy for them. After being questioned, he was released, only to get arrested again less than 24 hours later at a Jacksonville shopping center. That second arrest turned out to be the turning point in the investigation. On the same day, law enforcement got a crucial tip that shifted everything into high gear. The tip suggested a full-blown EMDA conspiracy, and Sean's arrest seemed to be the missing piece that allowed detectives to start connecting the dots. Armed with this new information, detectives wasted no time getting a search warrant. Their next target? A house on Jacksonville's north side, where they believe two other suspects, Isaiah Chance and Alicia Andrews, were hiding out. Officers surrounded the house and used a PA system to announce their presence, calling for Isaiah and Alicia to come out peacefully. They spent 15 to 20 minutes trying to coax the pair out, urging them to surrender without making the situation worse.
Keep coming. Stop. Stop. Turn around. Keep your hands up. Turn around. Hands up. Keep your hands up. Keep walking. Keep walking. Keep walking. Keep walking. Now turn around. Put your hands behind your back.
Eventually, Isaiah and Alicia were taken into custody, which was a huge break in the case. Now, with 3 suspects behind bars, the investigation was starting to piece together. But there was still one more major player on the loose, Rashad Murphy. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, with help from U.S. Marshals, tracked Rashad's movements and eventually pinpointed him at the Collins Preserve Apartments in the Ortega area of Jacksonville. The day after Isaiah and Alicia were arrested, SWAT units were sent to the apartments to find Murphy. They set up a perimeter around the place to keep him from escaping. Reports soon came in that Rashad was barricaded inside the apartment, holding a gun to his head and on FaceTime with his girlfriend, refusing to come out. After a tense standoff that lasted until just after midnight, Rashad finally surrendered, bringing this dramatic chapter to a close.
Please, like, tell me stop recording.
But before all these arrests went down, the suspects were already showing how clueless they were. Take Isaiah Chance, for instance. Just a few days after Julio Folio's EMDA, while the police were scrambling for any leads or evidence, Isaiah decided it was a good idea to drop some hints on a Twitter space. He hinted at catching a big fish, like he was so smart he could speak in code and get away with it.
Don't you up, you got bigger fish to fry.
You with the fish?
No,
I just twisted that bit so bad, bro. I don't got no fish to fry. I done threw my big ass in. You hear me? Come on now.
Keep talking for FBI.
But here's the thing. If Reddit users can figure out what you're saying, then the cops and detectives definitely can. It's like these guys were practically begging for attention, and they couldn't keep their excitement in check. Now, if you thought Isaiah was dumb, just wait until you hear about Rashad Murphy. You'd think someone in Rashad's position would be smart enough to cover their tracks, especially if they're driving from Tampa to Jacksonville after a hit. But Rashad did something that was pretty much the definition of reckless. Instead of laying low or setting up a solid alibi, Rashad put himself right in the middle of the action. How did he manage that? Well, Rashad booked an Airbnb in Tampa, which was just a mile from where Julio was offed. And it gets even better. The Airbnb was in his name, and on his phone they found a screenshot of the confirmation with his name on it. The confirmation message even included a photo of Rashad's Florida ID, proving that he booked the place. The Airbnb was a townhouse, and the booking was from June 22nd to the 24th. This was crucial because it placed Rashad and the others in Tampa during the EMDA, and they were caught on camera at this Airbnb. They didn't just head back to Jacksonville right after the hit. Nope, they went back to their Tampa Airbnb and were caught on camera again, still wearing the same clothes they had on during the EMDA. This was all caught on a Ring camera at the front door of the Airbnb. Then there's Alicia Andrews, who, if you thought Rashad was a stable genius, will prove you wrong. Instead of keeping a low profile, Alicia appeared in a music video with Youngin Ace just 2 weeks after the EMDA. In the video, they mocked Julio Folio's death. It's like she completely forgot she was one of the suspects in a high-profile EMDA case. She thought it was a good idea to celebrate Folio's death and make a mockery out of it, all while being actively pursued by law enforcement. The irony is rich because once Alicia got caught, she started playing the naive card, claiming she didn't really know what was going on and that she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But come on! If you're celebrating someone's death and flaunting it in a music video, you clearly knew what was happening and didn't care. Now that everyone involved has been captured, and with the overwhelming evidence stacked against them, it's almost certain they'll spend the rest of their lives behind bars.